Okay. So hopefully you guys got all your midterm project or exams done. Again, I'll be grading those, getting those all up. Some of you needed them reset. I got them all reset. That shouldn't be a problem. As far as the midterm project, so the midterm project is something that you choose on your own. It just needs to meet a given rubric criteria. So you're going to see that here in just a second. And it's fairly generic, and it's that way for a reason. So I want you to be able to choose what you want to do, make it meaningful to you. That way you will actually work on it. If I say everybody code a hangman game, everybody's bored because everybody codes the same hangman game, right? So my intention is that you find something that is of interest to you. This could be a text adventure game, and we'll kind of show you a little bit of what those kind of look like. It could be a program that you need for work or something that you want to do in there. You may have a favorite pastime. You want to build some kind of collection for all your books and have an address or a database that collects all the stuff and organizes it, etc. So it's pretty wide open what's there. The key is that the midterm project will then extend into the final project. All right. So they're not two different projects. You're coding it for the midterm project, and then you're going to change that to object-oriented programming for the final project. And we'll talk about what that means in the second half of the semester. So the key here in terms of points, you have 25 points on does the program execute with no errors. So I'm going to intentionally try to break your program. So you should have everything sanitized. If you don't have an input sanitized, then I'm going to go ahead and knock off 5 points. All right. If it crashes the program because I typed in something and it causes a red screen, it's the full 25 points off. All right. So check it, double check it, have your friends go over it, relatives, mom, dad, brother, sister, whatever you want to double check and make sure there's no way they can crash your program. If there's spelling, grammatical issues, things like that, that also counts from the no errors section. So again, that's 5 points for every instance until you run out of those 25 points, and then that's it. I will list all the issues that are in there when I go to grade this. And then what you will get to do is after in the final project, if you fix what was broken in the midterm, you get half those points back. So say you score a 75 on the midterm project, you have 25 points you can fix by the final project. If you fix all of those, you can get up to 13 of those points back, then giving you an 88. So you can end up with a B out of it. All right. The next 25 points is does the problem solve or does the program solve a problem or create something new? In other words, I'm looking for original work. So don't go out to Google and I need a Python project, right? If they're going to give you something like tic-tac-toe or hangman, and I've seen 900 of those, please don't submit tic-tac-toe or hangman. If you do your own version of those games, I'm totally fine with it. So if you put some kind of flair to it, change it, add ASCII graphics, all sorts of things like that, that's fine. I'm completely happy with that. It just needs to be your own work. If you're following some tutorial online and you submit that, that's not going to work. The idea here is that you have to be able to create it from scratch and be able to write the code to match your creation. If you're following a tutorial online, it won't work. If I find that you copy a tutorial online, you'll get a 0 on this assignment. And if I catch it on the final, then you fail the class. All right. So whatever you do, don't copy tutorials and things like that online. This should be your own original work. With that being said, you should also be coding to your skill level. So if you are currently writing at a B or a C in this class and I start seeing advanced Python, that's probably not your work. All right. Next 25 points. This program should contain good use of flow control, make use of functions. So what I'm really looking in this section is that you use functions, that you've created functions and use them. It should not be a function that just prints something and that's it. It should do something, the actual purpose behind a function. So you should be able to use the functions to do something that you're doing repetitive. Flow control means there should probably be some kind of if, else, while loops, for loops, that kind of stuff. And your code should be as clean as possible, meaning that it's the smallest amount of code necessary to complete that function. And then last but not least, I need to see an example of a list or a dictionary being used somewhere in your project. All right. And it should be a useful part of your project, not just I'm slapping a list in here with cat, dog, mouse, and your project has nothing to do with cat, dog, mouse. The last piece is the midterm should be well documented. You're going to make use of block comments, line comments to describe the program as a whole and individual functions in any major areas of the project. So at the very top of your project, you're going to put your initial comments in. You're going to make sure that you name the file the correct way, right? So Jason Zeller midterm project, right? Whatever you want to call it, whatever your name is, put it in there. You're going to have the initial comments at the top. Then you're going to use a block comment to explain what this project is. And it should be more than a one-liner. It shouldn't be, this is a hangman game. It should be, this is my text adventure game based off of my favorite book or whatever you're talking about there. But I should have a block comment and enough context to have a block comment. Then throughout that, you should be using line comments to at least describe your functions and possibly other pieces of your code. If you turn it in and there's no comments, you're going to lose those 25 points or at least a good chunk of them. So comment, comment, comment. In the midterm project, I want you to almost over comment things, right? Because the idea is I can see what you were trying to do. And if it's stuck or broken or something else, I can help you with it. The other part of this is don't try to bite off more than you can chew for the midterm project. All right. Yes, you have 3 weeks, but don't think that you're going to code an entire pie game and get everything done with all the sprites and everything. It's too much work. So part of this that's not written in this rubric is time management, project management, right? You have to be able to accomplish whatever you set out to do. If you have a chunk of your code that you're working towards, but can't quite get it to work yet, comment out that entire section so that your program still executes. Just have a piece in there that says to be continued. So if it's a text adventure game, you only got 4 or 5 options there and you have another 4 or 5 planned. When you get to that point, just say to be continued and the game ends at that point. That's fine. All right. What you don't want it to do is get to the point you haven't coded and the program crash. That goes back to the program crashing. Everybody understand that so far? All right. What kind of questions do you guys have on this midterm project? Yes, sir. We will not normally meet in class unless I say we'll meet. So you guys will have time during this class to meet and work on this project in this room. If you need me, I'll usually be down in my office and I'm happy to schedule one-on-one meetings, Zoom meetings, that kind of stuff during that time. But I give you at least this week of class. Next week, you guys are on spring break, so you have all of that. And then the week after that, I believe you have all of that week too. So 2 weeks worth of class, 1 week of spring break, total of 3 weeks to work on this project. There again, this is a beginner Python class. Am I expecting you to write massive projects? No, that's not the point. It does need to have some substance. All right. So don't just do the bare minimum because you'll really set yourself up for failure for the final. Because if there's not enough there that I can tell you what to change and do for the final, now you almost have to come up with a whole new project or really, really rewrite it. So try not to do the bare minimum. Try to get at least a good amount to whatever you're doing so that we have enough material or I can say, fix this to do this for the final. And you guys can fix that kind of stuff along the way. So if by Wednesday you guys have not found a topic or something that you want to do, come find me because we do not want to wait till after spring break. That would be bad, right? That's the number one thing I see people do, especially in this class where you have 3 weeks to do it versus the summer. They have about 2 to 3 weeks or 2 to 3 days roughly, or about a week to do it during summer. And then over Christmas break, they have 3 days. Right? So not even that. It's actually about 2 days. So you guys have plenty of time, which means people are like, oh, I don't have to worry about that till the week after spring break. And then they crash and burn because there's too much to code all at once. For your projects, especially in this entry class, remember, don't use ChatGPT, Copilot, all those other ones. They will give you too far advanced code and you won't understand what it's doing. If I suspect something like that, when I go to review your midterm project, I will ask you questions about it. If you can't answer how you coded that, I know it's not your code. Okay. And some people will delay, and that means they're over there Googling in the background. What does this actually do? Because I don't remember. I can tell that. Okay. I've graded this for 6 years. I can tell when somebody's trying to look it up online. especially if you're one of those students that's sharing your screen while you're doing it and forgot that. Like, don't do that. Come on, man. Yes, this kind of stuff happens all the time. So does anybody have any questions or concern on these midterm projects? Again, if you need help, especially if you guys are the online students, etc., schedule some time with me. I'll be happy to schedule, especially during this class period for the most part, as well as outside this class period as well. Yeah. Yes. So I'll probably have you add just a little bit more substance depending on how big your project is, right? But for the final project, you'll be rewriting your code to go from what you guys are doing now, which is kind of script form, to object-oriented programming. So if you guys have dictionaries and things like that in this code, it's easy to transition over to object-oriented programming, right? So if you meet all these requirements, it's kind of easy to transition over to OOP at that point. But you'll essentially be rewriting it in a different way. It'll be the same code, but you'll be rewriting it in object-oriented format. And again, we'll talk about that in the second half. I don't expect you all to add a bunch of regex and a bunch of other fun stuff in there, right? If you want to, you can go as crazy as you want. So we're going to have some students in here that are computer science students that have coded in 4 different languages. And so they're going to go nuts and do that. That's fine. I've also had nursing students, science students, chemistry students that are in here. They just have a reason that they're taking this class. And it's probably because they found out they need to do this in chemistry. They can do something around that. If you have a favorite book, a favorite movie, something like that, you have no idea what you're going to do for your project. Pick a favorite book, favorite movie, and build a text adventure game about it. I don't want to say that's the cop out, but that's one to do it, because trust me, building a text adventure game isn't as easy as it sounds. There's a lot of narrative that you have to come up with. If you're super creative and you can do that, it's a cakewalk for you. But somebody that's not super creative and can't think of how to write a text adventure story and then turn that into a Python project, they're going to struggle on the text adventure stuff. Anybody else have any other questions? These are all great questions. Thank you for finally asking questions of the class. I just have to assign a 100-point assignment, right? And then all of a sudden we get questions out there. Anybody else? All right. So midterm grades are going to be due next week. I am going to get all of your current homework up to that point. So all your quizzes, your midterm exam, and your homework assignments, all of that will be graded for the midterm grade that goes in next week. Remember, if you get through this week and you haven't figured out a topic or something to do, visit with me and I'll work with you to get some idea going. That way you can go into spring break to work on it. Do I expect you to work on it every day during spring break? No. But if you've got some time, it's a great way to get started so that you're not trying to cram that week afterwards. All right, I'll stop the recording.